Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day, not just a good day. So I'm just going to boil in straight to the case. It is currently trending and everybody wants to know what's happening, what's the update. So we're going to be talking about the Idaho student murders. So a suspect has actually been caught, but before I dive down deep into that particular aspect, I'm just going to let you know that he's basically suffering and he's basically in a bam bam suit. And if you don't know what a bam bam suit is, like the worst thing that you could ever tell a prisoner, like, I mean, he's basically like going to be wearing this suit down to only his knees, and he basically has no bed to sleep on except plastic bed, and he is supposed to be sleeping on the floor next to poop and pee, and it's going to be extremely cold, and he's going to have shit food, you know, and he's going to be crying, begging for anything that he could use to cover himself. And then the guards are just going to be like, I'm coming, I'll be right back, and pretend like they are going to get whatever he needs, and he'll just not see them again. So he's basically suffering right now. But if you are following the case, or if you've been following the case, you would know this. So but like, just a backstory and example, like for people who do not know about this case, or from the beginning, or how everything came about, I got you covered. So now we're going to dive straight into the beginning. In a school called the University of Idaho, there were 4 very close friends. There were actually more than 4, but we're going to be focusing on just these particular 4 that got murdered in this case. So their names are Ethan Chapin, 20 years old; Madison Morgan, 20 years old; Kaylee Goncalves, 21 years old; and Xana Kernodle, 20 years old. So they were basically roommates also, not just friends. They knew each other's families, you know, they were very close. So they decided to get an apartment off of school campus, you know, to basically live their lives too outside school, because some of them had jobs, some of them worked at restaurants, you know, to just not just keep themselves inside the bubble of school. Some students do that to know, you know, like just get out of the school neighborhood all the time, or like, you know, just feel like you're trapped in a particular space. I mean, I do it. I even stay outside of school. Madison, Kaylee, and Xana were roommates, but Ethan was actually dating Xana, so which is why he would be in the house at this particular time of this particular day. You know, he would usually come once in a while to sleep over at his girlfriend's place, you know, and sometimes she would also go to his place. So on this particular day, actually, they went for a party not too far from where they resided, from where Xana resided. And you know, they just decided to, like, you know, go out as a couple and have some fun like usual couples do, especially in like university, or you know. So Ethan and Xana went to a party at the Sigma Chi house on the university campus, while Madison and Kaylee were at a club called the Corner Club at downtown Moscow, you know, and they arrived back to their apartment at 1:45 a.m. Between the hours of when they got back to the apartment and onto the next morning, all 4 of these students died. It was seen that someone came in and stabbed 4 of them to death. 2 of the other roommates were staying downside of the floor of the apartment, so I don't think the killer saw them, because one of the student roommates actually said that she saw the killer and the killer walked right past her. So it's just very confusing. What I feel is that he was in shock of what he had done, because I feel like he wanted to kill only Kaylee and Madison on the top floor, because he was seeing that he had actually been stalking them, and he was also following them on social media. But he got into, like, you know, seeing other people that he thought he was not supposed to see, like maybe Xana and Ethan, and then he got exhausted and probably just didn't even realize that somebody was there, or he saw her and just didn't bother, or, you know, I so very confused, because according to what she said, it was seen that he walked right past her and went out through the back door. So I'm going to put like a description and an example of how everybody was sleeping in this apartment.
In the beginning, most of us believed the 2 surviving roommates, Bethany and Dylan, were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the 2nd floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the 3rd floor. The dog was located on the 3rd floor and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls, into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed. All of this only took 9 minutes. Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. He pauses at the stairs to look around to make sure no one's up. He then turns and goes upstairs. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door, he sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room. Outside there's a security camera picking up some whimpering, cries, and a thud at 4:17. We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
So now that you've seen the arrangement of how they were sleeping in their various rooms, I am going to explain how this person was finally caught. Then I would explain how he possibly, the analysis of how he entered into the building, so everything connects and makes sense to you. So when this happened, the roommates that he walked past by basically entered into her room, locked the door, and stayed in the closet till the next morning by 11 a.m. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't she call the police? Why didn't she react immediately? Why didn't she? I mean, put yourself in her shoes. If you saw someone basically with blood all over their body and you heard a scream, are you going to walk up to the murderer and go check? No, you're not going to. And then that could also be like a response to shock, basically. Like she could have basically been in shock all through that time, or possibly even fainted, to be honest, because she knew something was wrong, because she said she heard a noise at first but didn't think that, you know, she thought it was Madison playing with the dog upstairs. And in the last video I showed you, it was seen that, you know, there was a dog in the top right part of the building. So she just thought that, you know, that was what was happening. You know, Madison and Kaylee were probably playing with the dog. So she went back on her phone to continue using TikTok until she heard a loud sound, and that man basically walked past her after like 7, 8, or 9 minutes of doing whatever it is that he wanted to do. She called the police the next morning by 11 a.m. The police show up, and it is basically like a no caution area. Everyone comes out of the house, like her and the other roommates, but people believe that they slept through the crimes. But this was before she brought out that verification that she did not sleep through the killings. The police were then on a hunt for who could have possibly done this, and some of the neighbors around the area had CCTV cameras which caught a glimpse of a white car, and they also, you know, was trying to find out this was possibly the person, because that was the only car that was around by that exact time that they think the murder happened. But there was no concrete evidence, so they basically just died low. Everybody in the world was scared, especially people that were staying around Idaho. You know, it was like really scary and everything. And then eventually they found out that it was a man called Bryan Kohberger. How did they find out it was him? You know, you guys, science just keeps on getting freaking better every time. Do you know how they found this guy out? Through archaeology.
Tonight, we're learning how police were able to identify Bryan Kohberger as the suspect in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Law enforcement sources telling ABC News they used genetic genealogy to lead them to Kohberger.
Our investigative reporter, Terry Parker, has done a lot of digging on this topic. And Terry, you were able to confirm through your own sources how they tracked Kohberger down.
Yes, my source says it only took them a matter of days to match the Bryan Kohberger. Now, we've all heard of cold cases being solved using genetic genealogy. My source close to this investigation tells me this has never happened before, where police took their unknown crime scene DNA samples and immediately asked genealogists to find a suspect. Crime scene investigators scoured that Moscow, Idaho house where 4 college students were found stabbed to death in their beds. And experts tell me they likely got a lot of DNA and had to separate out the victims and other people's DNA from the killers, which was a huge undertaking.
They're going to have to analyze that, and they're going to have to go through every droplet and things like that. Because again, if the suspect cut himself, he clearly wasn't bleeding as bad as they were. So you could have one droplet somewhere, you know, and you're looking at a room and there's droplets all over the place. You're testing every single one of them.
Police ran the unknown DNA through the National DNA Database, but came up empty because Kohberger had no criminal history. That's when they had genetic genealogists upload the samples to a public database like Family Tree DNA and waited for relatives to start matching with the unknown sample. From there, they built a family tree using birth and death records, census records, and other hints until they had a whole tree of that family. And then started looking at, okay, who is the right age? Who lives nearby? Who is the most likely suspect based on this DNA match? Sources say they narrowed the possible relatives down to Bryan Kohberger, and police determined he drove a white Elantra seen near the crime scene. That's when the FBI started tracking him and apparently collected some discarded item of his with his DNA on it, which police say they've positively matched to the crime scene. That's their clincher evidence. The genealogy is just the amazing tool that got them there.
There was a knife sheet on the floor where Xana was killed, and he basically topped Xana on top of Ethan. And on the knife sheets, there were fingerprints that could basically help them check, and some blood particles that was like combined. It was not just his, hers, and him. You know, it was like there was a sign of struggle. And there's something that I don't really know the name, but like you could literally check up online or check records, and even if you don't do it, they can literally find you. If you committed a crime, they can literally find you through your father or your cousin or anything, you know, if somebody had signed up to do that thing. So even if you think you're not going to get caught because you feel like you didn't sign up for this, but I've forgotten what it's called. Probably like I'll put it up here on the screen when I find out the name. But like they did some blood traces through family trees, and then they found out that it was matching with someone called Kohberger. So, you know, they narrowed it down to the area and they found a man who is called Kohberger that basically probably or could be the one that did this. But when they found out more information about him and where he usually drives to, phone calls, it wasn't matching. So where did they go to? His children. So they were like 3 children or 4 children that he had, and so they started trying to narrow down where all these children are, and the only person that it looked like could be was Bryan. So the police started to keep an eye on him from the moment they found out that it possibly could be him. They did some rundown checks and they found out that he changed his license plate 5 days after the murder. Why did you change your license plate? What is the reason? So the police actually stopped him for overspeeding, and which was obviously not the case. They wanted to stop him to check if he actually had some injuries on his hands or, you know, some injuries on his face from sign of struggle of the fact that he killed this person, you know. And when the police stopped him, you guys, if you watch this video, you can literally tell that he basically did this thing, because the police was asking normal basic questions and Bryan's dad was responding, saying that, oh, they were going on a road trip, you know, oh, they were traveling, you know, and Bryan seemed kind of scared or angry that his father was oversharing, you know. So that was how it was obvious that his dad was probably not aware of what he had done, because some people at first were thinking that his dad was aware of what he had done, you know, he planned it with his family, blah, 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 blah. But no, it was very obvious from that video that the dad knew absolutely nothing.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. You ride up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing early.
What's WSU?
That is watching area.
So we're okay. I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University,
Yeah.
and you're going where? Oh,
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
oh, okay.
Mountains. Yep. We're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours we're driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
Yeah,
something?
there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where? Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there? Or?
I actually do work there.
Oh,
PhD in criminal.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
No, this happened about an hour and a half ago. They're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's two shootings because they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And then you don't know about that actually.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, do me a favor. Don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
After this, the police had seen that it was a white car, which was the car that looks like it was seen on the neighbor's CCTV camera. And they basically see that he changed his license plate. So who else could this be? But they did not have actual concrete evidence. You know, the plate number is not the same as the one that was on the camera. They have no proof where, it's still shabby details that a lawyer could get him out of. So, the police don't like to hold you here. They like to hold you here where you're not getting out of it. So, I mean, that sounds like enough proof. Like, why are you changing your license plate? It's the same color. No, they want concrete, actual evidence where you're not going to get away with it from, So, like, they start keeping track of the Kohberger household. So after a while, it was seen also that Bryan had emptied some trash by around 2 to 4 a.m. the next day after the murders, and it was seen that he was also emptying things. He didn't empty everything in one day. He was doing it occasionally. He left some things inside the house, like, where he was covered in blood, the shirt that he was covered with in blood, the trousers, the socks, the shoes. He was disposing it off one by one, basically. So, like, at like the third batch, because the police obviously didn't get him around the first time, so they found out that he was disposing of trash also inside his neighbor's trash cans. And then one time when he disposed trash, Kohberger's dad, Bryan Kohberger's dad, which is Mr. Kohberger, disposed trash. They took the cup as a sample, and they basically ran that through DNA test and checking and whatever, and it matched something that was in the crime scene. So this is how they knew that Bryan was their guy. And mind you, Bryan Kohberger has a PhD in criminal justice, so it's like, how did you think you were not going to get caught? Like, what measures did you even take to try to make sure you were not going to get caught? Because you used your car, you changed your license plate. Like, he was just being so stupid at this point by actually thinking he was not going to get caught, because he went to class the next day after doing that, and everybody in class was talking about the murders, because it was like a whole thing. It spread around, especially that city first and everything. And his classmates said that usually he would contribute into conversations or argue, but at this particular time he didn't. He was very quiet, which was very, the students didn't think much of it, because, like, why would you think that your classmates murdered people in your city? It's just like they just thought that maybe he's just not feeling it today, and you know, and it was also seen that he drove by the crime scene after the day of the murder. And it is usually seen and, you know, known that people that commit crimes, or murders especially, usually always try to know what is going on or drive back to the scene where they committed that crime. It's just like a logical, it's like a thing. It's just mostly known, you know. So he did that many times, and when the police also tracked his cell phone, they saw that he had made like 12 calls around that area, and then between the hours of 3 to 5 a.m. of the day of the murder, his phone was switched off. Why was your phone switched off? So, you know, all these things, little pieces, just connected everything together and basically just made everyone know that it was Bryan, you know. So the police was one hella sure that it was him. And I'm so happy that they caught him, because how did he just expect to be living life? Like, his parents actually didn't believe that he did this, because he said that he didn't do it. And then his parents supported him, that they believe his child, that he's being framed. That, you know, when all this evidence came out, they didn't support him in court. They didn't pay for his lawyers, you know. They just basically dropped him, you know. I know it's hard, like, as a parent, but that is basically what needs to be done. I think he even needs like a psych eval at this point, like, you know, because it was also seen that he would interview other criminals when he went to prisons, or other lawyers, you know, how they committed their murders, how they cleaned it up, how they, you know. But people just thought that he was doing this for his, you know, PhD in criminal justice. They didn't know that he was actually plotting to commit this crime. Was there a motive behind this crime? Nobody knows. But, you know, people just believe that he was most likely a stalker, because a bartender also had some things to say about him in a bar around the town, that he would literally just sit down in the bar and stare at his female workers, and, you know, they will always feel creeped out, which is also trying to make people think that, okay, because Kaylee and Madison were working as waiters or bartenders in a local restaurant, so could he have clashed up with them at one point in time and just formed an obsession, or did he make an interaction with them and then maybe they were rude to him, or they shunned him off, or they, you know, just didn't want to have an interaction with him like that. You know, people are trying to wonder. People, we still need more information, you know. We really still don't know, like, want the nitty-gritty of every single fucking thing, and why he chose them, why he chose that house, you know. What, like, how did he know that it was only students that were there, or did he just enter to make a random killing, you know? Like, what exactly freaking happened? And obviously the fact that he left the knife sheath means that he was probably scared in the process. So was it like a mental disorder? Like, you know, what exactly freaking happened? Like, it just always blows my mind when people do things like this, especially in this present day and time. Like, these are things that would happen in the 90s, like early 90s, okay, let's say late 90s, but like 2022, 2023, come on, like, bruh, like, let's just be for real. The police also tried to interview some of his old classmates, you know, from high school, to kind of know any information about him, and they said that he was actually bullied in school, but because he was fat, and then when he lost weight, he now became the bully. So, like, you know, I don't really know how that's really, like, you know, but yeah, I don't know how. I really don't understand this guy. Like, I'm trying my best to understand if I feel like he just went through a psych. Oof, like, honestly, I'm so shocked and still surprised. There were also some backstories about how in 2017 he had gone through rehab, and he was also a militant vegetarian, you know. His father's ex-wife would talk about how he made his parents throw out the pans and pots inside the house because he didn't want no animal byproducts in the house. I mean, his uncle's ex-wife, rather, not his dad's ex-wife. He also became a security officer at his old high school, and he actually saved the life of one of his old teachers too in high school through an asthma attack. You know, he helped him and everything. So, like, people just saw him as like a very good, hardworking, you know, like, they wouldn't think that he would do something like this. The police went further on to ask about, you know, how he behaved immediately after the killings, because Bryan had a roommate. So the roommate said that when he came back that morning by like around 5 a.m. that Bryan seemed 100% exhausted. Like, he had ran a mile, you know, like he had run a mile without stopping to take a break for water, and that he was just acting weird. The police also went further to ask his neighbors around the area, and they said that he would stay up at late hours vacuuming, you know, making noise. Everyone will hear vacuums around like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., which they felt was very, very weird. And like, you know, he was also in class during the time that these killings were the main topic of class on November 13th, which was the day after the murders. And you know, it was just, he was there and he was listening to all this, and I'm sure some people would be like, who could do something so heartless, who could? And he was right there listening, like, oh my god, you know, like, oh my god. It just makes me realize how, like, you know, like, especially all these unsolved cases, like cases that are not solved now, you know, all these like true crime gurus or true crime broadcasters, you know, come online and talk about the case, and I bet the person that did those killings know that it's them. Obviously they know that they are the ones that did this particular killing, and they just open their phone and they check, you know, this murder, you know, and then they see all sorts of videos about how they killed this person, and you know, maybe the person is like just saying a particular detail, and they're like, no, that's not what happened, but oh well, you know, like, it's just so crazy, like how they possibly they can see what the public sees, you know. They can, like, I don't know how to explain what is in my head. It's like they know they did this murder and everybody's talking about it. They know that they are the ones that did it, and they are seeing your speculations. They can see what you think, they can see what that person thinks, they can see what the police is after, can see what, you know, and they know, like, they know, they just know, and like they're just somewhere in the world just watching you on a screen or on their phone, and they fucking know. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, like halfway into the video I realized that I had like white like stuff beside my mouth. And that's like, that was someone's ick. Like, someone has told me that was their ick, and I always try to make sure that that never happened to me. And wow, I just shot like a whole 30 minutes, and you know, that was, but I can't delete the video, so just because of that. So like, you guys just bear with me. If you don't like seeing it, which I also don't, just back away and just listen. Thank you. So Bryan Kohberger was caught as the man who ended the lives of these 4 students, and they had their whole lives ahead of them. Their names and what they were doing in school and their hobbies were Madison Morgan. She was a senior at the university majoring in marketing. Kaylee Goncalves, she was 21 years old. She was a senior with major in general studies. And she and Madison actually met at 6th graders, and they were best friends. Steve Goncalves, which is Kaylee's father, said that they died together, and you know, they met each other while they were 6 years old. While Ben Morgan said Madison was his only child, and everything, like, she was like a huge deal in the family. Xana Kernodou, who was 20 years old, was majoring in marketing. Ethan Chapin majored in sports, recreation, and tourism in the school. And Ethan was a part of a triplet with a brother and a sister. So these are the lives that Bryan Kohberger just decided to reign in one night. You know, my heart basically goes out to the families of this particular case. Like, I just wish things happened differently, and I hope that they get their justice. And Bryan Kohberger, now that he's in court, is looking to face a sentence. Hopefully he even gets a death sentence, because at this point I really just can't. So I hope that that is what it comes to. And you know, he basically should be suffering right now, you know, with the whole bam bam suit. If I haven't already put it in the beginning of this video, I'll put the explanation with someone that had first-hand experience of going to prison about what is going to be happening to him, and you know, especially being in the bam bam suit.
This guy was too cocky to think he was going to get caught. He has a master's in criminology. He's a PhD student. He's a teacher's assistant. This guy did not think he was going to get caught. And because he didn't think he was going to get caught, he didn't realize how shitty his fucking life was going to be in prison. Now, I've been to prison, so let me walk you through what his life is going to be like in prison. First off, the turtle suit, the Bam Bam suit. This suit is typical for anybody that has a high profile case because they don't want you to yourself, and the material on that is non-rippable. So they can't use a sheet, or they can't tie up socks, or they can't do anything that's going to, you know, themselves. So that's why he has the Bam Bam suit on. And in a high profile case, they want to make sure nothing happens to him on their watch and that he gets back to Idaho so that he can be tried for the crimes that he's charged with. Now, when you're in a Bam Bam suit, they don't give you any sheet on your thin ass mattress. They don't give you any towel to cover up with or to use to cover up with. You're literally in that suit and then you're fully naked underneath. And in jail, they keep it cold as ice in there because they don't want the jail smelling. The warmer it is, the smells start to happen. So they keep it cold as fuck in there. And you're freezing your ass off in those suits. So he's literally sitting on a mattress, plastic mattress with no sheet in that jail cell. Usually people, when they're in those suits, they are crying to the guards, please give me a pair of socks, please give me a blanket, please, I promise I'm not going to do anything, because they're freezing their asses off. And everybody keeps calling it a vest. So these come down like halfway to your thigh, so they're like these little smock dresses, these heavy Velcro smock dresses. And like I said, you're naked underneath. So in the jail cell, they're disgusting. The jail cells are disgusting. And I've been to county jails, prison. All jails are the same. You got snot on the wall. You got feces on the wall. You got gum shots on the wall. They're disgusting. Dirt, filth, absolutely filthy. And he's rumored to be OCD clean about everything. And you can ask the guard, can I get like a broom or a mop? My cell is disgusting. No, they're not going to do shit for you. Like, you can ask them. They'll be like, let me go check on that. You'll never hear from them. Then second shift comes, you grab an officer and ask them. They'll never do anything. Third shift come. Don't even ask. It's not even worth it. You're not getting shit. And so he's going to have to lay on all that, basically naked, outside the smock. And yeah, and that's it. Watch part 2. It's going to be about prison food. And rumor has it he has an obsessive vegan diet.
And yeah, that's basically giving me peace, kind of, right now, that at least he's really, really suffering. So yeah, that will be the end of this video, and I hope I see you guys next time.